All right. Golix.
Yes, Adam.
If I would direct you to the Twitch page, I have just hit the go live button because there's too much uncertainty and the time pressures are growing too great. So
Fair enough.
it may not look like a usual broadcast or whatever, but we're kind of under.
Yep, I have an ad.
All right. I don't think I have the boosting modifications that Petty does, but I do.
An ad for Alienware and Wendy's.
They know their audience.
But it was one ad.
I'm not surprised. Like fast food and high-end computer stuff. It's more likely than you think.
Okay, I'm hearing duel on me and you are very quiet.
All right. Does that boost anything?
No, you are still very quiet.
Okay, hang on. Like I said, I'm not sure which all would do the boosting and just regular. Hmm?
I'm trying to remember. Tom, can you say something if you're there?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Let's see, 1, 2, 3.
You were also doubled. That was what I needed to check.
Like
So Adam, what do you have for sources going into the thing?
I got the speakers, both speakers up. Let me try downing them. See if that'll reduce the double. All right. Try speaking now.
All right, testing. Okay, now I'm not sure I'm hearing anything.
All right. That means too far in the other direction.
Also, you're super quiet. Like, barely audible when it's, like, maxed out.
How about now?
Much better, although you're also significantly louder here. So, I know.
So that's just a microphone thing. All right.
Yep, that's better.
All right. How about now?
Let's see. Are we getting us or just you?
Good question.
We are still getting just you.
All right.
Hello, I am back.
Hi, sorry about this. We're trying to get on the air before Pettyfan gets back, and
we're trying to make sure
in the many months since Adam has tried to do the tech stuff,
yeah.
we're still doubled, so I don't know if you can tell. Is it?
Okay. Maybe. All right. How about now?
All right, testing. Okay, now I'm quiet, but only single.
Okay. I know what the problem was. So let me do the boost.
I think so.
All right. How about now?
All right, testing again, hopefully for the last time.
Yeah.
Yep, I sound fine.
Yeah. There we go. like I found the issues. Like like one speaker had to be quiet, and one had to be adjusted. But
That's what I figured, but
yeah, um,
I didn't have the exact words without looking at your actual setup.
right. It, we don't have screen share on. Anyway,
So we should be ready to go.
yeah. Let me see. I forget if Petty has the themes here or no. That's not what I wanted to do. All right, let's go here. No. All right. Final thing. Let's down here. All right. Can you hear that?
Uh, 1 second. Try that again. I had the sound way down.
All right. Is the theme song coming through?
It is.
All right. All right. So that means we're all ready to go
Yep.
as much as possible. So we can begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Fragments of silicon. We can keep this ship in one shape.
Oh, hello? You guys hear me? Can't seem to hear you guys. I'm not able to hear anything, unfortunately.
Um. Right.
Oh,
Uh,
Can you hear
apology.
us now?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, we weren't saying anything because the theme song was playing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. Sorry.
Yes. Apologies in advance for what is already a messy episode of Fragments of Silicon. Um. Long story short, Petty finally got treatment for his eye condition.
Or at least
Um,
diagnostics.
well, he's got some drops that are numbing the pain. That's
Mm-hmm.
what he said. Um, but thing is, he has not yet arrived to his domicile. So that means I have, for only the second time, I think, have had to step in as the actual broadcaster. So things may be a bit out of alignment on the Twitch page. There may be some audio issues that aren't normally present. I'm just saying it's a bit more ramshackle than usual because we've kind of had been forced into this alignment. Not just because of Petty, but we have time pressures as usual. Um, on that note, that'll be about it for the news. We are getting straight to the interview this week as we welcome Tom Frencel of Little Guy Games.
Hello, guys.
Hello, how you doing tonight?
Hello. Not too bad. Just driving through Vancouver Island, the beautiful landscapes of Vancouver Island.
Uh, that
Stopping,
is, um,
stopping here to have this interview, and then off to Victoria for another 2.5 hours. So it's getting quite late here,
uh,
7 p.m. almost.
right. Which is why we had to make the go call to start the interview because
That's
otherwise
right.
there wouldn't be
You
an
guys,
interview.
that's true. You guys rescued the situation. That's for sure.
Right. So with that in mind, how we like to get started is we like to get to know the people behind the games, the studio, and all of that business. And we begin that journey with this particular question. What got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
Oh, that's a really good question. I was growing up in Poland in the 80s, and saw the first computer magazine. It was called Bytek in Polish, basically Byte. Um, and on that in that magazine, I saw a basic program that would allow you to render a triangle on the screen. Um, and at that time, I was a young kid, maybe 12 years old, 12, 13, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. This is so cool. I can actually write my own program and render something on the screen. At that point, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to create, graphics and um, and make it interactive because you could actually move the triangle with cursor keys back in the day. So this is the era of Commodore C64, the Amiga computer, the Atari. This is like 80s gaming. Gaming is just kind of becoming a thing at that time.
Hmm.
So
Um,
just to kind of I guess finish that story. I apologize because I looked like I ended, but I had one more thing to add. The Commodore C64 is just an underrated um, gaming console, gaming computer at that time. Um, just insert a game, a tape basically, and read the magnetic tape, had a little tape reader, and then loaded your game. And one of my favorite games back from that era was Ikari Warriors. You play two players, you could get inside vehicles. It was pretty nice top-down action kind of action arcade shooter.
I I am familiar with versions of Akari Warriors, as in I
Ah,
played the NES version, and if I'm remembering, the local Pizza Hut had an Akari Warriors machine for some reason. Like,
wow, interesting. That's cool. What
yeah.
what um, what systems did you grow up on, Adam? What were the first gaming systems that you kind of had your first introduction to games on?
That's a multi-pronged question, because
Uh,
there were, like, I guess the main system was the NES, but we had an Atari
yeah,
2600 laying around. Um,
nice.
that's the thing. Like, people talk about how Atari, died, the video game crash, but there was still a ton of Atari 2600s out there, and still floating
Totally.
in a lot of living rooms and basements and what have you. Um,
Yeah,
My parents had a
absolutely.
Intellivision or the other one.
ColecoVision,
Uh, huh?
ColecoVision.
Yeah, I think it was an Intellivision. But we only pulled that out on very rare occasions, and then uh, at some point we long-term borrowed an NES from my uncle
Yeah.
for a few years, and that was the only that was the console we had up until the Super NES came out, which was the first one I actually owned.
Yeah, ditto, but also with the caveat that since my dad was a engineer, we had a DOS PC in the house.
Nice. Yep. Yeah, that was sort of the. We also got once I came to Canada. We got the first NES console, and we also had the first DOS PC as well. The 386, I believe, at that time.
Hmm. So, I guess to simplify, I grew up with the popular machines, at least in the United States. I
Yeah.
know when we talk to Euro guests, it's much more Commodore 64, Amiga, what have you.
Yeah. Um, but once I moved to Canada, it was kind of a mixed between the NES, which is one of my favorite all-time consoles, obviously Super Mario Brothers, and just a
Hmm.
plethora of amazing games. So it's just amazing gaming machine. And then DOS PC was interesting because, of course, Prince of Persia um, was was there. That was that was amazing. Um,
I do remember.
Wolfenstein,
I
first
also,
PC game.
yeah. No, go ahead.
Yeah, and you could kind of start peeking under the hood, or like, okay, how do these games actually run on these systems? Like, how does this executable essentially, um, how can it, how can it display things and hear sounds, and you can control it with the keyboard? I was always a curious caterpillar in that sense, that trying to figure out how things work. So that gave me the first insight into, okay, there's something interesting here. Um, how can I learn more about it? And when I started attending high school, I took some computer science lessons and started programming in object-oriented. Well, I think it was basics first, and then it was object-oriented Turing was the programming language of choice for our high school. But I had a fantastic computer science teacher in high school, Mr. Caputi. Shout out to Mr. Caputi, Mr. Caputo, sorry. Shout out to Mr. Caputo, because when you get into something and you start developing a certain affinity for it, whatever it may be, having the right kind of mentors to be able to guide you, to be able to sort of help you answer the question, can I actually do this? It's very important. And I had a great computer science teacher in high school. Grew up in Rexdale, which is an area in Toronto. Um, Went to a high school called Father Henry Carr, and we started playing Doom with my friends in after our computer science class, network, local multiplayer Doom, and that was just an incredible experience to be able to play with your friends a first-person shooter like Doom. It was fantastic, and it just kind of reaffirmed that calling in me, that I want to make video games, and stayed on that path. But lucky for me, like I said, I had that positive experience in high school, and having a really good computer science teacher and a good group of friends that were also into comp sci.
Okay. And well, I suppose the natural follow up here is, at what point did that curiosity for how games tick blossom into the desire to work professionally?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because the when you're growing up and you're a kid growing up, you have a lot of questions, and you're kind of uncertain about the world outside of yourself. It's difficult to figure out whether or not you can actually make this stuff, right? Because you look up to these great game designers and these great games that you grew up on, and the question is like, well, can I actually do this? And the answer oftentimes for me was no. There's no way I can do this. But just going back to the high school period, we started developing with my friend Marco, under the supervision of our teacher. We started developing a program called Draw Animator in Turing, which was like a little program where you could draw frames and put them together to create these little animations. And Marco, who was my friend, was a much more talented programmer than I was. But nevertheless, we worked together, him and I, and you know, surely after a while, we were able to create a working program where you could draw frames and had copy and paste features, and it was pretty cool to actually see that first creation in action, and that reaffirmed that belief that, okay, maybe I can do this. Maybe this dream is not too big. This must
It's,
have been 1992, 93,
hmm.
94. Yeah, this is 1994, just to kind of give some context into the time period.
Okay. Like that was quite a while ago too. Like uh
Oh yeah, you know, this is but while it was a while ago, you guys obviously know how quickly the gaming industry moves at, the pace that it moves at. It's just incredible, right? To watch it just kind of start blossoming in the 90s and then fast forward to what it is now. We're all waiting on GTA 6 to sort of redefine once again the what is possible in gaming um, from a technical standpoint, but also from a cultural standpoint. It's pretty amazing how far it's come.
certainly like there's a whole load of conversations to be had down that particular avenue, no doubt. Um, but it's probably best that we stick to the focus here, on you and Little Guy Games. And indeed, that brings me to the question of, when did you finally enter the industry? And was that with Little Guy Games or was it somewhere else?
Well, that's um, it was somewhere else, but once I went to university, trying to keep the dream alive of wanting to make games,
Hmm.
and it didn't turn out that way because when I graduated, there was very little gaming jobs in Toronto. This was early 2000, no, mid 2000s, I want to say 2003, 4, 5, around that time frame. Toronto was not a gaming hub at that point, even though there were a couple of big studios in Toronto. There was Silicon Knights, Digital Extremes, Pseudo Interactive. Those studios existed and they were big, um, even by today's standards. But I was briefly looking for a gaming job, couldn't find one, and then I got a job. I did my professional experience year, which is like a year that you take off university and you go to work for 16 months basically to see what that feels like. And I did that at Nortel Network as a system administrator, and then met somebody there on a course, and that person ended up getting me my first job in the industry, but it wasn't in gaming. It was just in software engineering. So I spent the first few years out of university as a database programmer, and I was very grateful for the opportunity because the money was good and you know the job was decent as well. But I yearned for something, inside me. It was. I remember coming into work one day and just walking up the staircase, thinking to myself, I can't do this. I can't do another day of this. This is not what why I took comp sci. This is not what I wanted to do. So why am I doing this? And at that time, I started looking around, and this time I expanded my search for gaming jobs outside of Toronto. Looked into BC as well, and Florida and California. Just a wide net. And I had my first interview. Long story short, I bombed the technical side of it. Um, this was the first time I discovered just how talented of a programmer you had to be to work in games. Um, and couldn't find a job for a while. And then I remember I went on um, IGDA forum, International Game Development Association, Game
Hmm.
Developers Association websites forum, the Toronto chapter, and I saw a thread there started a few weeks back. And it was a bunch of people from Toronto getting together to start a gaming company. That was literally the purpose of the thread. It's like, hey guys, let's start a gaming company. I was I was flabbergasted, but I was like, this is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted to do. This is great. Let me meet these people, see who they are. And I went to the first meeting, the first meetup, and I met the future founders of Capybara Games there.
Oh,
and I was one of the co-founders. Yeah, so this was, I funny enough, a full circle story because I came to Vancouver with my girlfriend and my friend Chris, the former creative director of Cappy, as well as one of the co-founders of Cappy, lives in Vancouver, and I met with him just a few days ago. Um, so it's amazing how these connections, they can literally sometimes last a lifetime. And we still are friends, and we still talk, and there's good conversations about a wide variety of topics with Chris in particular. So Capri was the first company that I co-founded. I was its president for the first 5 years of its existence.
I'm like certainly a indie developer of very notable distinction. What did you work on at Cappy?
So I worked on a game called Critter Crunch. It is a
Hmm,
fantastic little puzzle game. I worked on Heroes of Might and Magic um,
like
game,
Clash of Heroes?
Class of Heroes, which was a DS, a Nintendo DS at that time title. So
Yes.
it came out on the portable console. It was a tactical puzzle strategy game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a bunch of so funny enough, when we started Cappy, we didn't have anything. We didn't have investment. We just started a bunch of guys getting together to start a video game company. And at that time, and this is what I alluded to previously, that things in video games change so quickly. At that time, the opportunity for us to start was in mobile gaming, specifically in J2ME and Brew.
Yep.
Those were the two competing systems on cell phones. The Nokia, Series 40, Series 60s, and Series 80s used J2ME, which was a version of Java, and certain Qualcomm, like Motorola's, and certain other headsets used this Brew standard,
That was
which was a slightly different standard. And we started pitching we started developing two mobile games, Smabu Earth Wars and Super Shop Shop. Those were the two first titles. I was working on Smabu Earth Wars, um, which is a little a whack-a-mole-esque shooter, arcade style shooter, and another program I was working on for Shop Shop, and those were ideas that were pitched by Chris, who had incredible uh, creative vision, and still does. And as we were working to finish those two games, those two original titles, uh, we we were pitching. We were actively pitching. This is all part-time stuff. There was not a single person. Not a single one of us was full-time at that time. And we were pitching on a little known IP named Cars for Disney Pixar.
mm,
And out of 15 studios that were pitching for this IP, we were successfully awarded the project by Disney for a mobile game based on the Cars, the very first Cars movie. Which was, it was crazy for us. We basically ended up going full time, getting an office in Liberty Village, which was an area in Toronto, up and coming little um, cool creative hub area, and we got our first office there, and we went full time, and it was an incredible time.
it sounds like it, and yeah, like the time you're talking about is such a specific era. Um, a very narrow band as well. Like because just a couple years later, you mentioned big changes. We would have the smartphone revolution.
Yeah, yeah. A few years later,
Yeah.
absolutely, and with Kathy, while we started on J2ME and Brew Phones, and we ended up making a lot of games. We worked on Scarface, We worked on Happy Feet. We worked on um, a bunch of other like high profile IPs. Uh, hmm, what was the singing? There was a singing game. Um, there was a lot of stuff. And then we wanted to make the switch. We wanted to go to the Nintendo Portable Console, which at that time was the Nintendo Switch. And we were like, how do we make the switch onto the Switch? And we started pitching our original. So we went to GDC because we would always go to GDC, and we brought a paper concept entitled Little Big Battle. Little Big Battle, which is a concept that this pioneered, and I was helping him on the design stuff, Nathan, and the rest of the guys too. Um, it was a beautiful, beautiful pitch concept. I was it was color A4 style color printed concept document, spiral bound, maybe 15 pages of colorful depictions of this little big battle game, which was just beautifully illustrated. Uh, the 2D art team at Cappy was just extraordinarily talented, and they still many of the artists still work at Cappy to this day. Anyway, we went to DC, met with Ubisoft. They saw the concept, and they fell in love with it. The guy that saw it was like, "Guys, this might be a good fit for one of our titles." And we went back home to Toronto. Lo and behold, got a call. I got an email from Ubisoft. They wanted to work with us on this concept, on this title. They thought it would be a good fit for their Heroes of Might and Magic franchise, and for us, it was an incredible opportunity. So we went to Paris, Chris and I, met with
Hmm.
their team, and we started working with the amazing team at Ubisoft on this iconic franchise that still to this day is incredibly popular. So we were very fortunate, very grateful for that opportunity, and had an amazing time working with Ubisoft. Um, the person, our producer from Ubisoft from that era, I recently met him at uh, Gamescom for the first time in years, and I, I I love that guy. He's an incredible. His name is Erwin. Incredible person, and he's working on his own game on his own. Um, I can't. I guess narrative style. There's more to it. I'm not sure how much I can devote, but he's he's working. He's living the dream, and it's such a difficult um, life. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a very difficult life. Those that are in the industry that are um, doing their own thing, I
like
understand what that means. It is a difficult life. I can leave it at that. But
no doubt, no doubt. Like it's a common refrain on this program, and that's just making games. Like
yeah,
making games
yeah,
is hard. Making games is expensive. Making games is time consuming. That one comes up most of all. Um,
totally, totally.
because
And
like
making games is extremely taxing on the soul. It's
yep.
you got to put everything you got into it. It's a lot.
It, yeah, it's why we take this focus here. Because we find not all the time, but a good majority of the time, the people who are building these games are very passionate about them. Um, and
Absolutely,
a
absolutely.
lo- And with that in mind, it's probably worth addressing what made you leave Cappy Games and go establish. I'm presuming this is the timeline here. Little Guy Games.
Yeah. Well, ironically enough, I felt that I wanted to have a little bit more creative control over my role at Cappy has become um, a lot more administrative. Um,
Mm,
I should put it as that. And I wanted a bit more of a creative challenge. I always loved, creating. That's the reason why I got into it. So that's what led me down the path of leaving Cappy and start Little Guy.
I get that. Um, you didn't sign up to deal with all the paperwork. You wanted to make games.
Exactly. Exactly.
And while, yeah, the business end of things is very important, um, it is not the end all be all of, well, video games.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um,
And I have to say that Cappy, uh, I still keep in touch with the co-founders of Cappy, and we go out for beers once in a while, and a good relationship. And they're an incredible group of people. They're passionate. They've been doing it for a long time. They have had some success as well, which is great. And they're working on some cool titles as well now. It was a great part of the journey, but my journey was to extend into Little Guy. I was just sort of that is what reality has brought forth, and that's kind of what happened.
Indeed. Um, and how long has Little Guy Games existed? And how little are the guys, so to speak? Like how big of a team do you have?
So Little Guy has existed since 2009, and we have the most incredible team that I could ever ask for at LGG. We call Little Guy Games LGG for short, and yeah, just an incredible group of people. And this journey through the gaming space for me has been a journey of personal journey of shedding my ego. As a creator, um, I, I I definitely have an ego, and I want to create, and I think that my ideas are worth bringing to the world. But I've been humbled so many times on this journey, on this path, and it's a painful process. It's it, it's a very painful process of kind of shedding the layers of one's egos. And at LGG, it is also this process is also kind of taking place. It's undergoing of yet another shedding of another layer of ego, and it's been a great journey just in the experience of life to go through this process. But we are fortunate to have an incredible group of people at LGG that we've built over the years. Um, some of the people that I've been working with at LGG, I've been working with for more than a decade, and some close to a decade. So very grateful for the team at LGG. We are working on an incredible title, our next title. Not Endless Night. Endless Night is the title that just the demo of which we released, but we're working on a title that's unannounced currently. That I think is going to be pretty pretty amazing. Just judging by judging by the momentum of the team and the energy. You know, it's difficult to speak in those kind of esoteric and nebulous terms like energy. What is the collective energy of a project how good that energy is, how potent it is, how strong it is, determines to a large extent, in my opinion, the success of the project, of any creative project. And the energy of this new game is absolutely, it's unlike anything I've ever seen in my entire career.
I mean, those are certainly some big words, if nothing else. And it's unfortunate that we can't really explore that in greater detail, but we know how this goes. It's like it's sealed until it's time to talk about it. Um, so while we can't address that title, we can talk about some of your other recent projects. And I guess an upcoming project in Wings of Wanatu? Is that how it's
Yeah,
pronounced?
that's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Wings
Uh,
of Wanted is a cool project to talk about for sure. It's a it's a it's a prototype of a virtual reality flying game with a strong focus on an indigenous uh, hero. So you know, a young Lakota warrior that is set to explore and discover the mystery of what is ailing his home planet, which is dying, is slowly dying, and kind of he sets on a spiritual quest to discover what is happening to his planet. Why is it dying, and what's what's going on? And there's the story of the ancients as well, which is the story of the ancient civilization that once occupied Wanitu, but has since left, and they left behind many interesting relics that are fairly advanced technologically speaking, but no one quite understands how they work. But the native population of the tribal population knows how to use them, and they kind of adopted them into their own, um, into their own way of life.
hmm. That's certainly an intriguing premise, though one I have to also note is potentially explosive. Um, uh, and that depends on this particular factor. Are you working with the Lakota Nation on this?
Yeah, you know, I went down to the Lakota Nation twice and met a really amazing mentor, I can say, in David Swallows Jr. David Swallow Jr. from the Lakota Nation, the one that works with Pride, has been my mentor on this project, and you know this project is currently just in the prototyping phase. Um, I am hoping to work to in the future work with the Ogallala Lakota College students and faculty members to kind of help craft this story and present it in an authentic way um, that they uh, approve of and can be interested even in potentially contributing some of the stories and mythology. We do have a spirit world in the game, and inside the spirit world, you know, I believe in the spirit world personally. Um, however, however, we Westerners define it, whether we define it as you know, or in a religious context as heaven, or we define it in a scientific context as the quantum unified field. Let's say, whatever the case might be, whatever the case might be. However, we understand the spirit worlds to be. I believe it is the precursor to our real world, which is the world that we live in, which is the world that we can grasp and touch. So we do have a representation of the spirit world in the game, and we have a representation of the material world in the game, and you end up in the spirit world after you perish. And there's all sorts of spirit animals that you can meet. They can be your guides, and um, and you can dive, you know, dive into the real world. And the real world what's happening in the real world in wine too is that it's been taken over by a very sinister and very powerful force that that has that has kind of grasped it with an iron fist and has a stranglehold on it, on nature inside that world. And that force is basically synonymous with the worst aspects of human nature, which is greed, jealousy, envy, um, selfishness. Um, and this is sort of almost an odyssey in this quest, which I feel we as humanity also are currently, I guess, on this path, on this same journey.
Hmm. It does sound um philosophical and enlightening and all that. And you mentioned it was a prototype.
Yes, it was a CMF funded prototype. CMF is it's called Canada Media Fund, and it's a organization, it's a federal organization in Canada that funds interactive and film projects as well. Um, I guess CMF doesn't, but Telefilm does the film projects. But yeah, because of CMF, we were able to create the prototype, and we'll be submitting the prototype. And because of CMF, because of this project, I was able to meet uh, the one the one that works with Pride, and he has taught me a great deal already about just the Lakota way of life, and I really look up to David. He's an amazing human being, and I hope that I will see him again, and we get to talk more about life, and the universe and the planet.
Right. Indeed. Well,
We
I
only
guess so.
we only have one of those planets. That's that's all we get. We only
Right.
get one. We don't. There's not going to be any do-overs like in a crazy RTS style game that you can just restart when you mess up. On this one, there's no restart button. I mean, maybe for the planet, but certainly not for us, not for the humans living on it.
I mean, yeah, yeah, that is like I really don't have anything else to add to that other than that might depend on if you believe in reincarnation or not, but that's kind of well beyond the scope of what we're talking about here. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I do. I don't myself have the spiritual evidence for it, but I trust the humans that have come before me, that have charted the path, and that have gone there and beyond, and came back to kind of tell us about it. And I trust those humans, and I believe there is something out there. But I would like to get reincarnated on this beautiful planet, Earth, that we have, ideally, and not on Mars, not on the surface of the sun, not anywhere else but here.
I hear you. Like, you know, this is the place where we can exist. That helps.
Yeah, but this
Yeah.
is one of the most beautiful places that is that spans beyond our wildest imaginations. I don't care how creative one is. One could not imagine a more beautiful place than planet Earth. Yes,
Yeah.
it's cruel at times. Yes, it's raw. Mother Nature is raw, and it's way bigger than us, and it will wreak havoc onto us in ways that we cannot even imagine. But yet, it is still beautiful.
Oh, I don't know. I can imagine many ways nature can and does wreak havoc on us. Um,
Yeah.
you know.
That's true.
Uh, anyway,
And you know, yeah. Sorry, I don't want to.
no,
You
no,
want
no,
to
it's
switch gears? Feel free, Adam.
no, well, it's more. I believe we have run down on time. Uh,
Oh,
coming
okay.
up,
Yep.
because it's now 10:35 where I am, and you
Hmm.
kind of mentioned you were under your own time constraints because of travel, but
Yes.
that's why I want to continue this interview at a later date, say December 10th, because
Yeah.
there are a couple of games we didn't get to this time. Uh,
Yep. Absolutely. We'd be more than happy to pop back on and chat with you guys again.
Very good, because next time up we have Endless Night, The Darkness Within. We have not touched upon this in any capacity, and Home Run Derby VR. So
Yeah.
we'll be talking about that on December 10th. And with
Awesome.
that, we come to the close of another episode of Fragments of Silicon. I want to thank our guest for bearing with us in our time of technical difficulties, um, and being with us here today. Tom, we look forward to having you back in December. And um, coming up on the week ahead, we do have a new episode of Moonhawk Studios Presents planned. Um, no idea if Mac's going to be hosting or if Petty's going to be hosting. Petty still hasn't returned home yet. So that's touch and go there. But coming up on Friday, October 17th, we'll be having Fernando Dominguez San Martino of Lemon Chili Soft. We will be talking about their latest, Super Farming Boy. And coming up on the Sunday game reviews, we'll be having reviews of Before Exit Supermarket, Other Skin, Incredipede, and impressions of Gold, Adventure Gold. So look for all that, and until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.